Mica Santos had spent her entire life trying to survive. At 25 years old, she was known for two things: her beauty and her intelligence. Despite growing up poor in New York City, she graduated as an accountant through scholarships and endless sacrifices. While other students enjoyed parties, vacations, and luxurious lifestyles, Mica worked late nights just to help feed her younger siblings. But no amount of hard work could save her family from her father. Mica Santos was a drunk, an abusive gambler, and a man who slowly destroyed everything around him, almost every night. Mica would hear her mother crying quietly after another violent argument. Their tiny apartment in Brooklyn, once the only symbol of hope their family had, slowly collapsed because of her father's debts. Sometimes, Mica wondered how her mother still endured everything. Years ago, her mother once worked as a maid for one of the richest families in New York, the Villareals, for 10 years. Elena Santos loyally served the family and cared for their two sons, Theodore and Kent Villareal, Theo. Mica still remembered him clearly when she was younger. She often visited the massive Villareal mansion with her mother during weekends. Theo was quiet even back then, cold, distant, different from everyone else. While little Kent laughed loudly and played around the mansion gardens, Theo usually stayed alone beneath the large trees while silently reading books. But sometimes, Mica caught him secretly watching her. And every single time, Theo immediately looked away. A small smile unconsciously appeared on Mica's lips at the memory, but it quickly disappeared. That life felt so far away now. 5 years ago. A terrible fire broke out inside the Villareal mansion. Smoke filled the entire house. Everyone panicked. Little Kent was trapped upstairs. Without hesitation, Elena rushed into the burning mansion herself. Moments later, she emerged from the flames carrying Kent safely in her arms. The Villareals never forgot what she did. Out of gratitude, Theo's parents gave Elena enough money to open a small convenience store and start a better life. For a while, things became peaceful, until Mica's father ruined everything. And now, years later, the debt had finally caught up to them. Rain poured heavily across the busy streets of New York City. Inside a small accounting office in Manhattan, Mica rubbed her tired eyes while staring at her computer screen. The soft glow of her monitor reflected against her exhausted face. It was almost 10 at night. Most of the office lights had already been turned off. Only a few employees remained. One of her co-workers grabbed her bag and sighed. "Mica, you're still here?" Mica forced a small smile. "I still need to finish these reports." Her co-worker looked sympathetic. "You work too much." Mica laughed softly. "I don't really have a choice." The woman hesitated before leaving. "Don't stay too late, okay?" Mica nodded quietly. Moments later, the office became silent. Only the sound of rain tapping against the windows remained. Mica slowly leaned back in her chair and closed her eyes for a few seconds. Her entire body ached from exhaustion. Slowly, she opened her wallet. Inside were only a few crumpled bills. She stared at them silently. Tomorrow was her younger brother's school payment again, and she still didn't know where to find the money. A painful sigh escaped her lips. Sometimes, Mica wondered if life would ever become easier. Her phone suddenly vibrated. "Mica, come home quickly." It was her younger sister. The girl sounded terrified. Mica immediately stood up. What happened? But the call suddenly ended. Fear tightened inside her chest. Something was wrong. Outside, cold rain soaked her white blouse as she hurried through crowded streets toward home. The city was still alive despite the storm. Yellow taxis passed through flooded roads, bright neon lights reflected against wet sidewalks. Street vendors hurried to cover their stalls from the rain. Mica tightened her grip on her bag while running through the wet streets. As she passed a small bakery, she stopped. For a few seconds, she stared silently at the freshly baked bread displayed behind the glass. Then slowly, she checked her wallet again. Only a few bills remained. After hesitating, she bought 2 cheap bread rolls for her younger siblings. Not for herself. Never for herself. The old cashier smiled sadly at her. "You work too hard, sweetheart." Mica simply smiled weakly. If only things were that simple. As she continued walking home,
she heard screaming, her father's voice, even from outside the apartment. "You useless woman!" Crash! Glass shattered violently. Mica froze. Fear and anger instantly filled her chest. She rushed inside. Their small apartment living room was a disaster. Broken bottles covered the floor. Her younger siblings were crying in fear near the corner. Her mother trembled beside the kitchen while holding her swollen cheek. And standing in the middle of the room was her father, drunk again. "Stop it!" Rogelio slowly turned toward her with bloodshot eyes. "Oh, look who finally came home." Mica immediately rushed toward her mother protectively. "You promised you wouldn't drink again." Her father laughed bitterly. "And you promised this family would become rich after graduating." The words stabbed deeply into her chest. Mica clenched her fists tightly. "I'm trying." "Trying?" he yelled furiously. "Trying doesn't pay my debts." The room suddenly became silent. Mica's stomach dropped. "Debts? Again?" "Mica," her mother whispered weakly. "Your father borrowed money again." Mica slowly turned toward her father. "How much?" No one answered. That terrified her even more. Suddenly, Rogelio kicked a chair violently across the room. "Those people will kill me if I don't pay them." Her younger siblings cried harder. Mica stared at her father with heartbreak and exhaustion. "How could you do this to us again?" For a moment, she no longer looked like a daughter. She looked like someone carrying the entire world alone. "Mama," Mica whispered painfully. "Why do you still stay with him?" Elena lowered her eyes while crying silently. "I wanted you children to have a complete family." Mica's eyes filled with tears. "But he stopped being a father a long time ago." Silence filled the room. Even Rogelio looked away briefly. Then suddenly, bright headlights appeared outside the apartment building. A black luxury SUV slowly stopped in front of the entrance. Everyone froze. Mica frowned. Several men stepped out first. Tall men wearing black suits, bodyguards. Then finally, the rear car door opened slowly, and Theodore Villareal stepped out. The rain continued falling around him, but somehow, it felt like the entire street had gone silent. Theo looked exactly the same, only colder, more dangerous, more untouchable. His black suit fit perfectly against his tall frame. Sharp eyes, cold expression, power radiated from him effortlessly. Even the neighbors quietly peeked through their doors. Everyone knew who Theodore Villareal was, one of the youngest billionaire CEOs in New York. Theo slowly walked toward the apartment building while rain dripped from his coat. For one brief second, his eyes landed on Mica, and something inside him softened, but the emotion disappeared instantly. Mica Santos. Hearing her name from him after so many years made her chest tighten strangely. "What are you doing here?" Theo remained calm. "Your father owes dangerous people a large amount of money." Mica felt sick instantly. Her father quickly stepped forward nervously.
"I already made a deal." Mica turned sharply toward him. "What deal?" Silence filled the room. Then, "You're marrying Theodore." The world stopped. "What?" Her voice broke. Her mother burst into tears. "No, please." But Rogelio ignored her completely. The Villareals agreed to clear everything. Mica slowly looked toward Theo, her eyes filled with humiliation and rage. You're buying me? Theo's jaw tightened slightly. No. Then why are you here? For the first time, Theo looked directly into her eyes, and beneath his cold expression, there was pain. But Mica was too angry to notice. The wedding will happen next week. Mica felt her heart shatter, not because she loved him, but because for the first time in her life, she realized she truly had no control over her own future. You can't decide my life, Mica shouted angrily. Rogelio slammed the table violently. You think we have a choice? You're selling your own daughter. I'm trying to save this family. You destroyed this family. Her younger siblings cried harder. Elena covered her mouth while sobbing quietly. Theo remained silent. But beneath his calm expression, his fists slowly tightened. Every second of this hurt him too. Finally, Theo turned toward the door. The wedding preparations will begin tomorrow. Then he left. Just like that. Cold. Distant. Untouchable. The sound of the SUV engine slowly disappeared into the rainy night. And suddenly, Mica collapsed to the floor, crying. Her younger sister hugged her tightly. Mica? Elena slowly knelt beside her daughter while trembling. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But Mica could no longer speak. Her entire future had just been stolen from her. Meanwhile, inside the black SUV, Theo sat silently in the back seat while rain slid slowly across the windows. The bright New York City lights blurred outside. Slowly, Theo opened his wallet. Inside was an old faded photograph. Young Mica smiling brightly beneath the mansion garden lights. Theo stared at the picture quietly for several seconds. Pain filled his eyes. Then softly, almost like a whisper, he finally spoke. Even if you hate me, I'll still protect you. The driver glanced nervously through the mirror. Sir, are you sure this is the only way? Theo slowly leaned his head back against the seat. If I don't do this, they'll destroy her family. Silence filled the car. You've protected them for years already, sir. Theo gave a bitter smile. But it was never enough. Meanwhile, inside the small apartment, Mica remained frozen on the floor. Her younger sister hugged her tightly while crying softly. Mica? But Mica couldn't hear anything anymore. Her thoughts were drowning. Marriage? To Theodore Villareal? The same cold man she once feared as a child? None of this felt real. Slowly, Elena knelt beside her daughter while trembling. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Mica's tears finally fell harder. Mama. Her voice broke painfully. Why does life always hurt us? Elena immediately covered her mouth while crying. I tried to protect all of you, but I failed. No, Mica whispered weakly. You're the only reason we survived this long. Her younger brother suddenly walked closer while holding her hand tightly. 8. Are you really leaving us? Those words shattered her heart completely. Mica quickly hugged both of her siblings tightly. No. No matter what happens, I'll never leave you. But deep inside, she wasn't sure anymore. Later that night, the rain finally became softer. Most of the city had already gone quiet. But inside her tiny bedroom, Mica sat alone near the window while staring blankly outside. Moonlight softly illuminated her exhausted face. Her wedding, next week. It felt impossible. Everything was happening too fast. Then suddenly, a memory returned. Years ago, The Villareal mansion gardens were filled with glowing lights during a grand celebration. Young Mica quietly stood near the fountain while staring at the beautiful decorations around her. Meanwhile, young Theo stood beneath a large tree, silently watching her from afar. Even back then, Theo rarely smiled. But that night was different. Kent suddenly ran toward Mica excitedly. "Mica, come play with us!" Mica laughed softly, but before she could answer, she accidentally slipped near the fountain. Before she could fall, someone caught her wrist gently. Theo. Young Mica looked up in surprise. For a brief moment, their eyes met. Theo slowly released her hand immediately. "You should be more careful," he said quietly. Mica blinked in surprise, then slowly, she smiled brightly at him. "Thank you, Theo." Young Theo froze completely, because that was the first time someone had ever smiled at him like that. Back in the present, Mica slowly closed her eyes. Why was she remembering him now? Why did her chest hurt strangely every time she looked at him? Meanwhile, across the city, Theo stood alone inside the massive Villareal mansion. The entire house was silent, cold, empty. A servant carefully approached him. "Sir, your parents are waiting in the dining room." Theo loosened his tie tiredly. "I'm not hungry." The servant lowered his head respectfully before leaving. Theo slowly walked toward the massive mansion windows. Rain still covered the glass outside. Then quietly, Kent entered the room. "You saw her today?" Theo remained silent. Kent sighed softly. She looked terrified. Pain flashed briefly across Theo's eyes. "I know." Kent stepped closer carefully. "You could have told her the truth." Theo gave a bitter laugh. "And what truth is that?" "That I've loved her for years? That dangerous people are watching her family? That marrying me is the only way to protect her?" Kent fell silent. Theo slowly looked down at the old photograph in his hand again. Young Mica smiling brightly beneath the mansion garden lights. Theo stared at the picture quietly, then finally whispered, "I'd rather let her hate me than watch her get hurt." The rain continued falling outside the mansion windows, and somewhere across the city, Mica cried herself to sleep, completely unaware that the cold billionaire she hated had already been protecting her long before she ever realized it. The next morning, Mica barely slept. Dark circles rested beneath her eyes as sunlight slowly entered her small bedroom. For several moments, she simply stared at the ceiling silently, hoping everything from last night had only been a nightmare, but reality returned quickly. Theodore Villareal, marriage, 1 week. A painful ache tightened inside her chest. Outside her room, she could already hear her mother quietly preparing breakfast, and somewhere in the apartment, her father was still asleep after drinking all night. Mica slowly sat up from bed. Everything felt heavy, even breathing. When she walked into the kitchen, her younger siblings immediately looked at her nervously. No one spoke. The atmosphere inside the apartment felt painfully awkward. Elena carefully placed eggs and toast onto the table with trembling hands. "Mica?" But Mica quietly interrupted her. "I'm going to work. You need to eat first. I'm not hungry." Her mother's eyes filled with guilt instantly. Meanwhile, Rogelio finally walked out of his room while rubbing his forehead irritably. "You're acting dramatic over nothing," he muttered. Mica slowly looked at him in disbelief. "Nothing?" Her voice trembled. "You sold me to a billionaire. I saved this family." "No," Mica snapped painfully. "You destroyed it." Rogelio's expression darkened instantly. "You think I wanted this? You gambled everything away. I did it for this family. You did it for yourself." Silence exploded inside the apartment. Even her younger siblings froze. Rogelio suddenly slammed his fist against the table violently. "You ungrateful child!" Mica flinched slightly, but this time, she didn't back down. "I spent my whole life cleaning up your mistakes." Tears filled her eyes. "I'm tired." For the first time, Rogelio looked speechless. Then suddenly, a knock echoed through the apartment. Everyone froze. Mica slowly opened the door, and immediately froze again. Theo's assistant stood outside wearing a black suit. Beside him were several women holding large designer boxes. "Good morning, Miss Santos." Mica frowned. "What is this?" "Theodore Villareal sent these for you." The women carefully entered the apartment and placed the boxes onto the table. Luxury dresses, jewelry, shoes, designer bags. The small apartment suddenly looked completely out of place beside such expensive things. Her younger siblings stared in shock. Even Elena looked overwhelmed. Mica's expression slowly darkened. "I don't want any of this." The assistant remained calm. "Mr. Villareal said you'll need them for the engagement party tonight." "Tonight?" "Yes, Miss Santos." Mica stared at him in disbelief. Everything was happening too fast. The assistant then handed her a small envelope. Inside was a handwritten note. Theo's handwriting was sharp and clean. "I know this is difficult, but trust me. Just a little longer. Theo." Mica's chest tightened strangely. She quickly crumpled the note in frustration. Why did he sound like he cared? No, this was all just another business arrangement to him, nothing more. Meanwhile, across the city, Theo sat inside a massive conference room overlooking New York. Several businessmen nervously presented reports in front of him, but Theo wasn't listening. His thoughts remained on Mica. She looked terrified. Kent's words from last night echoed inside his mind repeatedly. Theo quietly loosened his tie while staring blankly at the city skyline. Then suddenly, his phone vibrated. "Unknown number," Theo answered calmly. "What is it?" A dangerous voice laughed softly on the other side. "You really plan to marry the girl?" Theo's expression instantly darkened. "She's not involved in this." "Maybe not yet." Theo slowly stood from his chair. Every executive inside the room immediately became tense. "If you touch her family..." His voice became dangerously cold. "I'll destroy every single one of you." The call ended. The entire room fell silent. Even Theo's assistant looked nervous. "Sir..." Theo slowly closed his eyes. They know about her already. For the first time in years, fear appeared inside Theodore Villareal's eyes. Meanwhile, back inside the apartment, Mica stood silently in front of the mirror while wearing the expensive black dress Theo sent. It fit her perfectly, too perfectly. Her younger sister gasped softly. "Mica, you look beautiful." But Mica didn't feel beautiful. She felt trapped. Elena slowly approached her daughter from behind. Theo's mother also sent a diamond necklace. Elena carefully placed it around Mica's neck with trembling hands. Tears slowly filled her eyes again. "When you were little, you used to dream about becoming successful and happy." Mica stared silently at her reflection. "I still do." Her voice sounded painfully soft. "But this doesn't feel like happiness." Elena hugged her tightly from behind. "I'm sorry. I wish I could change everything." Mica gently held her mother's hands. "This isn't your fault, Mama." But deep inside, Mica didn't know whose fault it really was anymore. Then suddenly, a black luxury SUV stopped outside the building once again. Theo had arrived. Her heart immediately began beating faster, and she hated herself for it. The black SUV finally stopped in front of one of the most luxurious hotels in Manhattan. Bright golden lights illuminated the massive entrance while expensive cars lined the streets outside. The moment Theo stepped out of the vehicle, cameras immediately flashed everywhere. Reporters, business partners, socialites. Everyone had come to see Theodore Villareal's mysterious future wife. Mica instantly froze. The attention overwhelmed her completely. Then suddenly, Theo gently offered his hand toward her. For a moment, Mica hesitated. But the flashing cameras grew even brighter. So slowly, she placed her hand in his, and immediately, the reporters exploded with questions. "Mr. Villareal, is this really your fiancé? When is the wedding? How did you meet?" Mica lowered her eyes nervously. But then, Theo moved closer beside her protectively. "No questions tonight." His cold voice instantly silenced everyone. Mica looked up at him slightly surprised. For the first time that night, she felt strangely safe standing beside him. Inside the ballroom, everything looked unreal. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above hundreds of wealthy guests. Soft violin music filled the room. Mica suddenly felt completely out of place. Then Theo leaned closer slightly. "You're nervous." "I don't belong here." Theo looked at her quietly. "You belong anywhere you want." Mica's heart skipped unexpectedly. Before she could respond, Theo's mother approached warmly. She gently held Mica's hands. "You're even more beautiful than I remembered." Mica smiled politely. But before the conversation could continue, a staff member suddenly tapped a glass. The entire ballroom became silent. Theo slowly turned toward Mica. Then unexpectedly, he reached for her hand again. Mica's breath caught softly. "Theodore Villareal," the host announced proudly, "and his future wife, Mica Santos." Everyone applauded loudly. Mica's chest tightened nervously. Then slowly, Theo slipped a diamond engagement ring onto her finger. The room erupted into cheers. But while everyone celebrated, Theo quietly leaned closer and whispered near her ear, "I'm sorry. Mica froze completely. Why did he sound guilty? Later that night, after the party finally ended. The wedding happened only days later. The ceremony was private but breathtaking. White roses filled the church. Soft piano music echoed beautifully. And despite everything, Theo couldn't stop looking at Mica. Meanwhile, Mica stood beside him wearing a stunning white wedding dress. But deep inside, her heart still felt confused. When the priest finally spoke, "You may kiss the bride," the entire church became silent. Theo slowly stepped closer. Mica's heart pounded wildly. Then gently, very gently, Theo kissed her, soft, careful, almost afraid to hurt her. And for one dangerous moment, Mica forgot why she hated him. A few days later, Theo brought her to Italy for their honeymoon. The warm Italian sunset painted the sky with soft shades of orange and pink. From the balcony of the luxury villa, Mica quietly watched the ocean waves move peacefully below. Everything felt unreal. The marriage, Italy, Theo, it all happened too fast. Then softly, she heard footsteps behind her. Theo. He had removed his suit jacket, leaving only a white dress shirt slightly rolled at the sleeves. For once, he looked less like a billionaire CEO and more like a normal man. "You've been quiet all day," he said softly. Mica looked down. "I'm still trying to understand everything." Theo nodded slowly. "I know." Silence settled gently between them, but this time, it didn't feel uncomfortable. The ocean breeze moved softly through Mica's hair. Then suddenly, she felt Theo carefully place a blanket over her shoulders. "You'll get cold." Mica looked up at him in surprise. You always do things like that." Theo frowned slightly. "Like what?" "Take care of me." Theo froze. For a brief moment, his expression softened completely. "You make it sound strange." "Because it is strange." Mica's voice became quieter. "You forced me to marry you, but you treat me like I'm something precious." Theo looked away toward the ocean, because hearing those words hurt more than she realized. Finally, he spoke quietly. "You are precious." Mica's breath caught softly. The tension between them suddenly felt heavier, warmer, more dangerous. Theo slowly stepped closer, close enough for her to hear his breathing, close enough to make her heart race. "Mica," the way he said her name sounded painfully gentle. And for the first time, she no longer saw only the cold billionaire everyone feared. She saw loneliness, exhaustion, and something deeper hiding inside his eyes, something real. Then slowly, Theo lifted his hand and carefully brushed a strand of hair away from her face. His touch was unbelievably gentle, like he was afraid she would disappear. "Mica," he whispered again. This time, she didn't pull away. Theo slowly leaned closer, giving her enough time to stop him, but she didn't. And softly, he kissed her, slow, tender, nothing like the cold man she expected him to be. Mica's heart pounded wildly inside her chest, because somehow, this kiss didn't feel forced at all. It felt honest. Theo rested his forehead gently against hers afterward. His voice became low and emotional. "If you want me to stop, I will." Mica looked at him silently for several seconds. Then softly, she shook her head. And that was the moment everything between them began to change. Theo's eyes searched hers carefully, as if he still couldn't believe she hadn't pushed him away. The ocean breeze moved softly around them while the golden sunset slowly disappeared behind the horizon. For several seconds, neither of them spoke. Then quietly, Theo brushed his thumb gently against her cheek. "You don't know how long I've wanted to do that." Mica's heartbeat instantly quickened. "What do you mean?" Theo froze slightly, but then he simply shook his head. Nothing. He almost stepped away. Almost. But suddenly, Mica held his wrist softly. Theo looked back at her in surprise, and for the first time since all of this began, Mica moved closer first, slowly, carefully, and she kissed him again. Theo's entire body tensed for a second, like he had completely lost control. Then gently, he pulled her closer against him. The kiss deepened slowly, warm, emotional. Years of hidden feelings silently breaking apart between them. Mica could hear her own heartbeat loudly. Everything about Theo suddenly felt different now. His touch, his voice, the way he looked at her. Not cold, not distant, but careful, almost protective. And Theo rested his forehead against hers again while breathing heavily. "Mica," his voice sounded dangerously soft. "You don't have to force yourself." Mica looked into his eyes quietly. "I'm not." That answer completely shattered whatever control Theo still had left. Slowly, he guided her gently inside the villa. The lights inside were dim and warm. Outside, the ocean waves continued crashing softly against the shore. Meanwhile, inside the quiet bedroom, Theo stopped beside the bed, and suddenly, he looked nervous. Mica blinked slightly in surprise. The powerful billionaire standing in front of her actually looked afraid. Theo gently touched her hand. "If you're uncomfortable, we stop." Mica's chest tightened emotionally. No one had ever treated her this gently before. Slowly, she whispered the truth. "I've never done this before." Theo froze completely. His expression softened instantly. Then gently, he lifted her hand and kissed it softly. "Then I'll be careful." The tenderness in his voice almost made Mica emotional. Theo moved slowly the entire time, patient, gentle, constantly making sure she was okay. And somewhere between nervous touches, soft kisses, and quiet whispers beneath the dim Italian lights, Mica realized something terrifying. She was beginning to feel safe with him, and Theodore Villareal was slowly falling even more deeply in love with the woman who still didn't fully know the truth about him. Theo gently pulled Mica closer as the soft lights of the villa surrounded them. Her hands trembled slightly against his chest. Not because she was afraid of him anymore, but because everything felt so new, so overwhelming. Theo noticed immediately, and instead of rushing, he slowed down even more. His fingers carefully brushed against her cheek while his forehead rested softly against hers. "You're okay," he whispered gently. Mica closed her eyes for a moment. No one had ever spoken to her with this much care before. Then softly, Theo kissed her again, slow, tender, patient, like he wanted her to feel every emotion he could never say out loud. Outside, the ocean waves crashed quietly beneath the moonlight. Inside the bedroom, the distance between them slowly disappeared. Theo treated her like something fragile, something precious. Every touch was careful, every kiss filled with emotion, and little by little, Mica stopped feeling trapped beside him. Instead, for the first time in years, she felt protected, safe, loved. Later that night, Mica rested quietly against Theo's chest while soft moonlight filled the room. Theo gently stroked her hair silently, as if he still couldn't believe she was really there beside him. Meanwhile, Mica listened to the steady sound of his heartbeat, and slowly, a dangerous thought entered her mind. Maybe Theodore Villareal was not the villain she believed him to be. The next few days in Italy felt strangely peaceful. Every morning, Mica woke up to the sound of ocean waves outside the villa, and somehow, Theo was already awake, sometimes working quietly on his laptop near the balcony, sometimes simply watching the sunrise in silence. At first, everything between them still felt awkward, careful, uncertain, but slowly, day by day, they began learning each other little by little. Theo discovered that Mica loved sweet coffee in the mornings. Mica discovered that Theo secretly hated crowded places. Theo noticed she always gave food to stray cats they passed near the streets. Mica noticed Theo quietly bought flowers for her almost every day, without ever mentioning it. One afternoon, they walked together through a small coastal town near the ocean. Warm sunlight covered the colorful streets while soft music played from nearby cafes. Mica suddenly stopped near a tiny souvenir shop. Inside the window display was a beautiful handmade snow globe, New York City. Theo noticed her staring. "You like it?" Mica smiled softly. "It reminds me of home." Without another word, Theo quietly bought it for her. Mica blinked in surprise. "You really don't have to buy me everything." Theo looked at her calmly. "I know." "Then why do you?" Theo became quiet for a moment, then softly, "Because seeing you smile makes me feel peaceful." Mica's heart skipped painfully. Little by little, the cold wall around Theodore Villareal slowly began disappearing around her. At night, they talked more about childhood memories, dreams, fears, even small stupid things that somehow made them laugh together. And every time Mica laughed, Theo looked at her like she was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. One night, Mica accidentally fell asleep beside him on the couch while watching old movies. When she woke up hours later, she realized Theo had carried her carefully to bed and placed a blanket around her. He was sleeping beside her peacefully, one arm protectively wrapped around her waist. And for several seconds, Mica simply stared at him. He looked so different while asleep, softer, younger, lonely. Without thinking, she gently brushed her fingers through his dark hair. Theo slowly opened his eyes. Their faces were only inches apart. "Mica." His sleepy voice sounded warm and deep. For some reason, her heart began beating wildly again. Then softly, Theo kissed her forehead, and somehow, that simple kiss felt more intimate than anything else. By the end of the week, They no longer felt like strangers trapped in a forced marriage. They felt like two wounded people slowly finding comfort in each other. But reality waited for them back in New York. The morning they left Italy, Mica stood quietly beside the airport windows while holding the small snow globe Theo bought for her. Meanwhile, Theo handled calls nonstop beside her, his expression slowly becoming colder again, more distant. Mica noticed immediately. The closer they got to New York, the more Theo seemed to change back into the powerful billionaire everyone feared. And somehow, that scared her. Because for one beautiful week in Italy, she almost forgot their marriage began with pain. As their private jet landed in New York, Theo suddenly reached for her hand. His grip was gentle, protective, then quietly. He looked at her. No matter what happens next, I need you to trust me. Mica frowned slightly. What's going on? But before Theo could answer, several black SUVs suddenly surrounded the airport entrance outside, and Theo's expression instantly darkened. The SUVs stop outside the airport. Theo immediately pulls Mica protectively behind him. Several armed-looking men step out. Mica becomes scared. Then one man smirks and says, "So this is the woman you chose over your company?" Mica looks confused. Theo's expression becomes deadly cold. Then the man says, "You should have listened to us, Theodore." Suddenly, Theo grabs Mica's hand tightly. "Get inside the car, now!" Mica's heart starts racing, because for the first time, she realizes this isn't just about debt anymore. Theo is hiding something dangerous. Just when Mica finally started trusting Theo, danger arrived. The man she thought was cold and heartless might be the only person capable of saving her, but some secrets are powerful enough to destroy everything. What happens next? Find out in part 2. Subscribe now and join StoryCrafter Creations for more emotional billionaire romance stories. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next chapter of Mica and Theo's story.